number of very impressive postdocs. He spends a lot of time at NYU, where he directs the Jewish Media Group with Barbara Kirschenblatt-Gimblett, who Jeff will not mind my saying is probably the smartest woman who I know, smartest person I know. So that Jeff and Barbara work together is already a strong recommendation, and I won't embarrass Ari Kelman, who's on the line. Is Ari still there? Ari said Jeff sees things well ahead of before Ari sees it. So with that prophetic and gayonic introduction, I give you Jeffrey Shandler, who I just met.
Thank you very much. Okay, wow, gayonic, that's a little scary. Okay, well, thank you. I want to thank Steve for inviting me.
Prophet was okay, but gayonic was over the top.
Prophecy is over, so I don't have to worry about that one. So thank you very much, and I'm very happy to have this opportunity to share some of the work I've been doing on the study of Jews and media with you as another set of issues, a set of things for you to consider for your conversation today. And I come, as you heard, from the academy, not from the world of Jewish education. I have, some familiarity with things that are going on in the world of Jewish education, and some of what I have to talk about will bear directly on that. Some of it will be more indirect, but I still think fruitful for sort of larger discussions of framing some of the questions that are at stake in the conversations you've been having so far and will continue to have on a big issue facing us. And when Stephen invited me to do this, I just started making lists of things. I should talk about this, I should talk about this, I have to bring up this. But basically, I'm going to go through my list and put out for you a series of issues, a series of questions for further discussion to see what fits with your sense of interest, and also you'll get a sense of where my own work's been going. So just starting with thinking about the range of new media in Jewish life today generally, including the pedagogical media you're here focusing on in particular, but within a larger landscape. So within just the landscape of digital media, which you've been talking about in our earlier session today, educational software and language learning and tech study, digitized searchable forum. There's much else to consider, some closer to the field and some more far afield. There is a burgeoning presence of online archives of scanned books and documents and images. In my own work, looking at online Holocaust survivor testimonies, online recordings of interviews with Yiddish speakers from all over Europe that were made in the 1960s and are now available online as a resource for people studying Yiddish dialectology, runs of old Jewish periodicals, all kinds of artwork, medieval manuscripts, ketubot. I'm doing a project on ketubot right now. There are entire collections that have been put online. So that kind of stuff is made available. Informational websites you've been talking about, online encyclopedias and resources. Jewish institutional sites, mailings, e-journals. These are all part of this sort of fabric of new media in Jewish life. I would add to all the digital material, though, new uses of older media, which are taking place alongside all of this new media activity. And one of the things I'm ongoing interest in is what happens to old media when new media come along. So, for example, the phenomenon of Jewish film festivals. In films and old media, the Jewish Film Festival, first Jewish Film Festival, San Francisco, 1981. It takes a while to catch on, but now there are well over 100 Jewish film festivals just in North America, and they're all over the world now. And this is a new way of mediating film, of creating audiences for film, creating circuits for bringing filmmakers in contact with audiences and so on. Jewish museums, they've been around for about a century, but they now involve media in exhibitions. They exhibit media works. They have websites. They have virtual exhibitions, even books, not only forum, but all kinds of books, recorded books as well as e-books. These are other things to consider about uses of old media. And what interests me in particular are how new media relate to new social practices. So social networking, some of which you've been talking about, the relating of information to a virtual community in listservs, wikis, open source projects. There's also the way the virtual community is meant to engage actual community activity, whether it is JDate or Simchas or all kinds of Jewish political action mobilization or Jewish interest Facebook pages. These are all uses of new media and creating virtual communities, but with the idea that these ultimately lead to some kind of actual face-to-face behavior. And one of the things that has emerged is a new understanding of the relationship of virtual socializing to actual face-to-face socializing. At the same time, there are all kinds of activities in which the virtual becomes an end in itself, and probably, for me at least, one of the most intriguing is the presence of Jews in Second Life in this, this elaborate virtual world inhabited by avatars, which is the virtual being that the user creates to enter and create in and interact in this virtual world. So, Jewish avatars now populate a significant part of Second Life. Of course, Jewish avatars don't necessarily have a real Jewish person behind them. They inhabit virtual Jewish spaces, synagogues, Holocaust museum. There's a virtual hotel. There's a Jewish cafe. And they enact virtual Jewish activities, including some sacred practices. And these raise really interesting questions like lighting holiday candles, according to what clock, or text study. Some very interesting things going on where the virtual is the end of itself. So these kinds of things interest me not only to look at what's going on in the present, but in relation to the past, and in particular to see how a sort of cascade of new media wind up accumulating the religious life gets lived in the 20th century. So in the case of Talmud study, and you were talking earlier about sort of what is state of the art in terms of online digitized text and tagging the text and virtual subversives and all these kinds of things. And this rests on a very interesting trajectory of new media coming along and having an impact on Talmud study. Starting around the turn of the 20th century when photo offset printing is invented, and you start getting photo offset editions of the Vilna Shas, which fixes and standardizes the text in an unprecedented way. So at a certain point, it doesn't get typeset anymore. It gets photo offset. And this is an unprecedented level of standardization and a new way of reproducing a text. Shortly after that, you have the establishment of Daf Yomi in 1923, which is coordinating and standardizing Talmud study on an unprecedented scale and becomes eventually this international practice. And it now has all kinds of very interesting uses of various new media. The use of electronic media starting in the 1950s when you get, for example, the Daf HaShavua being broadcast by Rabbi Mordechai Pinchas Teitz on WEVD, of all stations, beginning in the 1950s, and tapes become available starting in the 1980s when cassette culture emerges, which actually has a huge impact on the culture of Jewish recorded sound, music, and spoken word. At the same time, in the 1980s, you have the creation of Dial-A-Dot by Eliyahu Heitzbaum. And this is very interesting implications, not least of which the ability of women in Orthodox communities to engage in Gemara Shir in a way that wouldn't otherwise be available. And